Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1. And let's start at verse 1.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, and verse 1. Love righteousness.
It said we have to love righteousness.
Ye that be judges of the earth, think of the Lord with a good heart.
It said we have to start, when we think about God, and say think about him with a good heart. Go ahead.
And in simplicity of heart, seek him.
And in simplicity, seek him. In simplicity, that's how we're supposed to seek the Most High. We make our walk harder when we don't keep it simple. The Most High's wisdom is so high that it's simple. Read that again.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, and verse 1. Love righteousness. Ye that be judges of the earth, think of the Lord with a good heart, and in simplicity of heart, seek him.
It say, in simplicity of heart, seek him. Seek him with a simple mind, meaning stop overthinking. Whatever the scriptures say, take it. Stop overthinking it. Stop trying to find loopholes or what else. Or anytime you find yourself often saying a what if, you got to consider. That's a crafty thought. Not saying every time, but oftentimes when you get that what if, that's a potential crafty thought. Just keep it simple. Go ahead.
Verse 3.
Not too
For verse 2. For he will be found of them that tempt him not.
And God said he gonna be found of those that tempt him not. Meaning in any way. Go ahead.
And sheweth himself unto such as do not distrust him.
And he said he gonna show himself unto those that don't distrust him. He gonna show himself to those that don't distrust him. Go ahead.
Verse 3. For forward thoughts separate from God.
Read that again.
For forward thoughts separate from God.
So the thought that nobody is perfect, that's a forward thought. That's a forward thought that's gonna separate us from God, and we gonna prove it as we continue in class. That's a forward thought that's gonna separate you from God. Go ahead.
For forward thoughts separate from God and his power. When it is tried, reproveth the unwise.
So hold this spot. We're gonna come right back to this. Because it said forward thoughts separate us from God. Forward thoughts separate us from God. And the thought that nobody is perfect, that's a thought that's separating a lot of people from God. So let's hold this spot. Let's go to Isaiah 55. Let's go to Isaiah 55. Let's start at verse 6.
Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 6. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near.
It says, so while you still got breath, seek the Most High. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his
It
thoughts.
say, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Because still having the thought that nobody's perfect, that's an unrighteous thought. You can't say you're trying to serve God and can't believe that you can walk like God. How can you believe in God and you believe also that you can't walk like God? That's an unrighteous thought. Go ahead.
And let him return unto the Lord.
It say return to the Lord. You got to think upon perfection. Perfection is the spiritual mission. Go ahead.
And he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon.
Go ahead.
For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord.
It say my thoughts are not your thoughts. God said my thoughts are not your thoughts. And because of that, anybody who believes that nobody is perfect, you got to ask yourself, how do you define perfect? Because I guarantee you, nobody even can really give you a rational answer. They just gonna say, just doing everything right, or you gonna probably hear so many crazy things. Guarantee you, just try it. Or anybody that believes that nobody is perfect, ask them, what do you define as perfection? And then consider, what do God consider perfection? Because God keep it simple. Read verse 8 again.
Isaiah 55 and verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways.
He said, my thoughts aren't your thoughts, and my ways ain't your ways. So why you thinking you ain't perfect is because you're not considering my thoughts. God say you think you not perfect or you can't be perfect because you're not considering my thoughts. That's what the Most High is saying. So let's see, how does the Most High define perfection? Because that's going to help you identify, can you be perfect or not? When you start seeing how does the Most High define perfection, then you can actually have a focused mind to see what does it mean to be perfect and can you strive on that path. You got to see what do the Most High define as perfect. So let's get that in Psalm 19. Let's get Psalm 19 and verse 7.
It's Psalm chapter 19 and verse 7. The law of the Lord is
It
perfect.
says what?
The law of the Lord is perfect.
God said his laws are perfect. God said his laws are perfect. So when you say, what does it mean to be perfect? You have to consider God's laws. That's what perfection is. God's laws, the keeping of God's laws, it's that simple. Wisdom of Solomon 1 said, with a simple mind, consider him. In simplicity, seek him. Perfection is simply keeping God's laws. That's the real definition of perfection. Read that again.
Psalm 19 and verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul.
Because we trying to get our souls better. We trying to get our spirits better. And the only thing that can do that is God's laws. So yes, that's perfection. Go ahead.
The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple.
And that's the only way a simple person can become wise. Is to consider keeping God's laws is the only thing that can make you perfect. Not whatever weird thought you had. God said you had an unrighteous thought. If every thought you had about ain't nobody is perfect and you never considered this, you was following your own mind. You was following your own mind, and that's why the Most High said we got to cast down imaginations. Perfection is possible. It's simple. It's just the keeping of God's laws. So let's go ahead. Go back to Wisdom of Solomon 1. Read verse 3 again.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1 and verse 3. For forward thoughts separate from God, and his power, when it is tried, reproveth the unwise.
So that forward thought, thinking you can't be perfect, that will keep you separate from God. Go ahead.
For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject unto sin.
So it says, wisdom can't come into a malicious soul. God's wisdom, it can't go into a malicious soul or a body that's subject to sin. So anytime you have that, anybody who has the thought of nobody's perfect, you have a malicious soul and you are in sin. Just the thought. And we're going to prove why, because read verse 2.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1 verse 2. For he will be found of them that tempt him not.
God said he going to be found of those that don't tempt him. Go ahead.
And sheweth himself unto such as do not distrust him.
And the ones that distrust him. So if you distrust that you can't be perfect, that's a malicious thought. You subject to sin. Why are you in sin? Go to Romans chapter 14. Go to Romans 14 and 23.
Romans chapter 14 and verse 23.
This is why you have a malicious soul and in sin if you have that thought.
And he that doubteth is damned if he eat.
It says the one that doubt, he's damned if he eat. Go ahead.
Because he eateth not of faith.
He said not of faith, but what?
For whatsoever is not of faith is sin.
So anything that's not of faith is a sin. If you don't believe that you can be perfect according to God, just that thought alone, that's sin, because you don't have faith. You don't have faith that you can keep God's laws. Because that's all perfection is. is keeping God's laws. So if you don't believe that you can be perfect, or if you believe nobody is perfect, you are in sin. That's an unrighteous thought. That's an imagination that needs to be casted down worldwide. Let's get Deuteronomy 18. So let's get the actual law. Let's get the law. Deuteronomy 18, verse 13.
Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 13. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God.
Simple.